Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for September 18th, 2025. Well, yesterday we got through that FOMC announcement. I gotta tell you, pretty surprised the way the market reacted, and even more surprised the way it is reacting here this morning. Massive gap ups this morning that we couldn't get done yesterday after that rate cut, even though it looks like the Fed is a little bit uncertain about the path forward. So how about we settle in here and let's take a look at what happened overnight. First off, if we take a look at Asian markets a little bit on the mixed side, while Japan makes a new record highs here in the market, really ripping to the upside here. So taking a look at those, we have Australian markets down 73.30 or 0.83%. We've got Hong Kong falling 363.54, 1.35% lower. South Korea up 47.90 or 1.40%. We've got the Nikkei zooming up 513.05 to let's see, that's 1.15% here on Japan. We've got India up 93.35 at 0.37%, and we've got Shanghai lower by 44.68 or 1.15%. Quite a mix in data over there. If we take a look at European markets, however, European markets are bullish across the board in reaction to the Fed rate cut. We've got the DAX up a whopping 288.24, 1.24% higher this morning. FTSE is up $17.63 or 0.19%, and the CAC is up 93.22 or 1.20% higher. If we take a look at U.S. markets, man, we are zooming here this morning, and we're actually pulled back from earlier here this morning. Dow futures up 301 points here at the moment. S&P 500 futures up 52.25, and NASDAQ futures zooming up 237.75 here this morning. So all bullish in the market, making new record highs. If we hold here during the pre-market, we'll be making new record highs in the Diamond SPY and QQQ, with IWM trailing just slightly behind in making a new record high. If we take a look at what we've got going on in bonds here this morning, bonds are dipping just slightly here this morning. We've got the 2-year bonds coming in at 3.52. The 10-year bonds are at 4.05%, and the 30-year bonds at 4.66% here this morning. Now, looking at how that might be affecting our U.S. dollar, well, interesting this morning, we're trying to bounce up just a little tiny bit after a really rough day yesterday. We've hit new lows in the US dollar and then bouncing it back up at the end of the day, pushing back up into some resistance here in the chart. We tried to get up through there earlier this morning, and now we're easing back, but right now the dollar is up not quite 5 cents, obviously still moving in a downtrend here in the chart. We'll see if it can gain any ground here today or not in this environment, so watch that closely. Now, if we take a look at the impacts that are happening here in precious metals, a lot of fluctuation in those precious metals yesterday. We've got gold pushing up off the low of the overnight, pushing up just a little bit, but still down $15.70 an ounce, coming in at $3,702 an ounce this morning, trying to recover just a little bit. And if we take a look at silver here this morning, silver has been in the positive here this morning, but now just very slightly lower, down just over a penny at 42.14 an ounce here this morning in silver. Copper, if we take a look at COPX here as the miner, copper right now is down about a penny and a half, but you can see it is bouncing off of overnight lows, trying to push this back up here in copper in a very, very bullish pattern. And we see the same thing in a lot of the mining stocks, very bullish patterns. Platinum this morning is higher, gapping up a little bit. Right now we've got platinum futures up $17.20 an ounce, and we've got palladium futures continuing to move lower, down $6 an ounce. Taking a look at cryptos here this morning, they are also zooming pretty well here. We've got Bitcoin gapping higher here this morning, pushing on up in a very bullish pattern, with Bitcoin up 1,400. Let's see, 1,404.48, so 1.21% higher here this morning. Ether is also higher by $72 a coin, 1.59%, and also a very bullish pattern where we might just find that higher low in here and push on up here in crypto, see if we can break through some of this resistance here in the chart. And Solana is also up pretty substantially here this morning, $7.94 a coin, 3.34%, and cryptos across the board are showing green this morning, even as pressures build in Congress for some regulation here on crypto. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Let's take a quick look at what we've got going on here in oil this morning. If we take a look at USO, we've got oil just ever so slightly lower here this morning, but it has been bouncing just a little bit off of lows. Oil futures right now down 10 cents at 63.60 a barrel. Brent crude coming in at 67.84 a barrel, and natural gas moving just ever so slightly lower at the moment, down 1/10 of 1 cent in natural gas futures here this morning. So also trying to hold in a bullish pattern there on natural gas. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Thursday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's dig in on these index charts. And I got to tell you, the price action moves in here are really surprising considering the way breadth continues to respond. I'm going to go to the breadth chart and show you that we had quite a whipsaw in the breadth chart. We ended up finishing the day with the breadth moving lower overall in T2101. Very surprising. Now I know we're starting to slip into that corporate buyback restriction. We're in that blackout period, and that's going to continue to grow as we head toward the next round of earnings. But interestingly enough, our breadth continues to be extremely weak. And I honestly think what we're seeing here in the market is we're seeing retail traders in such a frenzy in buying, and we're seeing institutions actually pulling back on their trading. So be really careful here in this market as we continue to stretch and extend in quite a bit of an exuberance. But we'll get back to that here in just a little bit. Let's take a look at the diamonds. Diamonds, as I've continued to mention, continues to be very bullish. And as I said yesterday, be prepared for some pretty substantial whipsaws and big moves up or big moves down. Well, the whipsaw we certainly got yesterday. We were very strong initially, then we whipsawed, everything went negative, and then we pushed right back up in the Dow, seesawed around a little bit here, but end of day, after the bell and overnight, where we're seeming to get the majority of our movement here lately, gapping substantially higher here this morning. So new record highs in the diamonds, blue sky above. There's nothing in this chart that looks bearish. However, if those bears were to have anything to say, let's watch today when we gap this big in the pre-market on such low breadth. I would continue to watch for that possibility of a whipsaw. So if those bears have anything to say in here, or if we stumble in any way, shape, or form on any of our data today, then I would look for that possibility that we could push this back down here. Now, if we break that area of support, no worries. As long as we hold in this consolidating zone, so we could push all the way down into here on the diamonds, and I don't see us having any problem at all. I will tell you, however, that the way breadth is set up, I could not rule out the possibility that we could have a downside move that comes into place that stretches us down below there. That would be a pretty substantial move and a pretty shocking move, but I think we're in that situation where that is certainly possible with the breadth being so low. So just be really watchful of these trades. Stay with the upside trend, but just realize we're getting very frothy in this market. Same thing is true on the SPY. Can't look at that chart with any kind of bearishness, but I want you to understand that every single day that we have rallied in this move to the upside, the market breadth has gone the absolute opposite direction. So with that occurring in here, making new record highs this morning, we sank pretty hard yesterday in that FOMC announcement, and then responded right back up with a huge surge, making new record highs. Blue sky above. Can't look at that chart bearish at all. If the bears have anything to say on this day, if we happen to stumble in any way, shape, or form, breaking back down here to test a little bit of support wouldn't be a big problem. Even coming down into here probably wouldn't be a problem. I think if we were to whipsaw enough that we were to take out the low of that tail, that's where we get a little bit of concern popping up in the market. With the breadth being so low, I can't rule out that kind of a whipsaw, but right now I'm staying with this upside trend because the exuberance continues to carry us higher. If we take a look at the QQQ, same thing. QQQ really whipsawed yesterday, pushed down substantially, but we're gapping higher again here this morning, really trying to push on up. I'm going to take this line and push that out there just a tiny little bit and adjust this up. But as you can see in here, if the new record highs, blue sky above, absolutely ever reasonably we can continue to stretch to the upside. If the bears have anything to say and we were to push back into here, no problem. No problem if we came all the way back into here, no problem at all. It would be if we drop below that tail in some kind of massive whipsaw that we would have some problem here in the market. So watch that carefully with breadth being as low as it is, but right now stay with the upside trend. And if we look at IWM, a lot of this push this morning, we came so close. We peaked up here at a new record high in IWM, but at the end of the day, we were not able to hold it. Push this back down in kind of a nasty looking little shooting star type pattern in here. But if we take a look today with this gap up this morning, breaking through this area here of resistance at the open and pushing on higher, I think there's every reason to suspect that we could make new record highs here today. Remember, we would need a close up in this area to get that new record high, but it looks like we're very, very close to making that happen. So stay with this upside trend. Again, we cannot look at that chart and see any kind of bearishness in the chart. So new record highs looks like a possibility to me. Now, if the bears were to have anything to say and we were to whipsaw this, we could pull all the way back into this area of price support without any worry or concern. As a matter of fact, I think we could push all the way back into here today without any major concern in IWM. However, if we fell off that shelf in some kind of a whipsaw, that's where a little bit of fear will come in. Now let's take a look at our VIX. This is another thing that has just been pretty remarkable. We have been moving up in the VIX. Fear has been rising in the market as we've been stretching and stretching to the upside. Yesterday, big old whipsaw in there on that VIX. And this morning, with the big gap up, I would suspect that we're going to see this pull on back. So if those bulls can continue to show that energy in here and we break back down through this area of support, pushing this back down, then I think we have that opportunity with this bullish energy right now, coming back and retesting these recent lows here in the chart. However, if we continue to see a stretching to the upside and we see that fear gauge hold in this area and start pushing back up, that's going to be a little bit of concern and really begging the question as when that whipsaw is going to occur. So we'll just have to keep our eyes peeled on this price action in here and see if we can continue this energy to the upside. If we take a look at our T2122, our T2122 was really interesting yesterday, as early in the day we were pushed all the way up into the bearish reversal zone. We were right up here, and then we whipsawed the market quite a bit, and we ended up finishing the day right down here about middle of the range. So with the big bullish move that we see this morning in the indexes, I suspect we're going to open the day very, very close, if not in that bearish reversal zone. So that's, again, another one of those things. We gap up in the pre-market like this so big, we want to be watching for that potential whipsaw with breadth being so low. So remember, we've got about an equal opportunity here for those bulls or bears today if anything in the market happens to reverse or shift. So watch that closely. Right now, expect we'll be up here in the bearish reversal zone first thing this morning. If we take a look at our T2108, T2108 ended the day yesterday with a percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average, moving slightly lower. We broke just below 55% here, but not so much as to be any kind of major worry. We are giving up this upside trend. So one of the things as we continued to stretch yesterday in some of those indexes, we still had more stocks falling below their 40-day moving average. So something is really odd in this market, and I suspect that here eventually we're going to get a major break in something. It could break where all of a sudden our breadth really starts coming in with those bulls. The bulls really fire that up and really start pushing in here, or we see that situation where the market breaks and it starts coming down and could come down pretty quickly. So watch that carefully here on that dynamic. As long as we stay in this upside trend, we're fine. But when I start seeing we're making record highs and things like that, our VIX has been rising, and we're seeing that the majority of stocks are slipping here just slightly, it does beg the question, when is something going to break? Now, if we were to push on down here in T2108, I don't see any major issues in here unless we break maybe below that 50%. With 50% of the stocks back below their 40-day moving average, that might raise a little concern. But the way we're looking this morning, I think there's a really good chance that we pop this right back up and we're up here testing recent highs. So watch that closely. Remember, when we get up into this zone up here, we're starting to reach that frothy area in T2108. We can go higher, but somewhere between that 70 and 75% range, we are in an extreme frothy area of the market. So we still have plenty of opportunity that we could continue to stretch this. But I do think we might be forming a bubble here. In T2107 also drifted back yesterday. So we had more stocks moving lower below their 200-day moving average, but not so much as to be a major worry. As you can see, we could pull back all the way right into here to this 50% area and still have a really good area of support. I do think if we were to drop below there, that would raise some concerns in the market. But with the bullishness this morning, heck, we might just push this right on up and retest this up here around 60% in the chart. Certainly looks like a possibility, at least a retest of that recent high. So watch that carefully here in T2107. As long as those bulls stay pushing like this, stay with the upside trend. And then once again, our T2101 is a line chart here. You got to just notice in here how incredibly weak the breadth is. That means participation in the market is declining and declining rapidly. So as we are declining, and we rarely get this low and stay there long, something could break at any time in the market. Now, it's either the breadth breaks and really starts to follow those bulls to the upside, or it breaks and we start seeing that move up pretty sharply as the market breaks lower and fear starts running into the market. Can't tell you which one is going to occur here, and that's why I keep saying stay with the upside trend until something does break. But this is a very odd circumstance in the market, so watch that closely. Should make everyone a little bit tentative about racing in and chasing already extended stocks. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. In our economic calendar, we do have a few things that we want to be paying attention to here this morning. So first off, today we've got jobless claims that we'll want to be paying attention to. Jobless claims coming out here before the market opens. We're looking at claims declining here just a little bit according to consensus, 246,000 in here. That might start to show us a little bit of stabilization here in those claims, so watch that carefully if that does come in. If it happens to miss to the upside, that could be a little bit of a problem for us. So watch that carefully. We happen to see those jump higher above that 263. Watch that closely. Then if we take a look, we've got a Philly Fed manufacturing number in here, and I think this is good. If consensus is suggesting that our manufacturing is improving here just a little bit, a 3.0 from a negative 0.3, that could be bullish for the market today, although we tend to just ignore this. At least we ignore it when it's bad. We don't care as long as AI is doing well, so watch that closely. Leading indicators, I doubt we get any kind of movement off of this, and they're suspecting that's going to stay just flat in there at a negative 0.1. We have a natural gas report here today, certainly could be important for oil and gas areas of the market. Watch that closely. Some bond auctions in here, a 4-week, an 8-week, and a 10-year tips, Treasury, International, and a Fed balance sheet. And that is about it for the week. All we're really going to have left is that quadruple witching, where lots of options will be expiring. You could expect some volatility around that day. Watch that carefully. Baker Hughes and Daly is going to be speaking. So pretty light into the week. when we come in to take a look at notable reports for today, we got a little bit of a kick up and a couple of more reports to be paying attention to here today. We've got Darden reporting this morning. It looks like we're getting a little bit of bearishness in the pre-market there on Darden's report. We're also going to hear from FDS here today. That is moving lower this morning, so watch that one carefully. And we're going to get a report here, excuse me, a report here from FedEx. We'll want to be keeping an eye on that this afternoon on a FedEx report, so watch that carefully. And then we've got Lennar that will be reporting this afternoon. Both of those potentially market moving reports. That's kind of it. There are a few real small companies that will be reporting after the bell today. Tiny little small caps, but other than that, notable. That's going to be it for the day. So how about we take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube. And also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And as you guys know, it's free to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. And if there's anything that helps out the channels for any content provider out there on YouTube, the best thing you can do is subscribe. So thank you everyone for everyone who does that. And if you have the time and willingness, if you find these videos to be useful, if you could just leave a brief comment. Any kind of comment helps out a lot. Just even an emoji counts as your reaction to the video. So thank you so much for everyone who takes the time to do that. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up here. First off, boy, I think everyone needs to be keeping an eye on some of these material providers here in the market. Home Depot, beautiful potential upside trend. A nice little resting pattern in here. Yesterday it whipsawed down just a little bit, but if we can get a little bit of bullishness going in here, I would suspect rate cuts are really going to help those builders get some homes sold and get some homes built. So watch that carefully in here. If you could see that really start to move up here, I think. So watch Home Depot carefully. Keep an eye on Lowe's. Lowe's is also setting up in a very, very tight resting pattern. Very bullish. If those bulls get going in here, I think there's every reason to believe that could push up. In fact, I would just take a look at the whole home builder ETF in here and start looking through some of those stocks in here. There's quite a bit of bullishness in here. Things like Masco. You can look at any of the builders like D.R. Horton, KBH, Toll Brothers, Lennar. Keep an eye on those. A lot of potential in here in those charts. So keep an eye. Johnson Controls continuing to try and set up and break this downtrend. A nice little bullish pop there yesterday. So keep an eye on some of those stocks in that sector. Looking pretty good overall. Let's take a look at other areas of the market. Take a look at the financials. XLF had a really good day yesterday, popping through on that rate cut, breaking through to some new highs up here, and you can see trying to follow through this morning to the upside. So take a look at your stocks like Goldman, which has really been stretching up, Bank of America stretching up, Citibank stretching up, really looking good here in the market. And you could even start taking a look at some of the things that aren't necessarily the big banks, but things like PayPal getting a big bounce here yesterday, trying to push up. It's going to have to deal with some resistance in here, but watch that carefully. XYZ might be trying to come back up here. Take a look at Visa. Got a really good pop yesterday, even though still in a downtrend, but trying to pick up. Perhaps this ends up being a double bottom. AXP, one of the better credit cards, breaking out yesterday, really stretching to the upside here. I would keep a close eye on that. AXP looking very, very strong in here overall. I would also be keeping an eye on the utility sector. One of the things that is really good for utilities is lower rates. We haven't got anything going in here yet, and we still have this downtrend going on, but you'll notice we're trying to hold a higher low in here as well, which gives us that opportunity of about a 50% chance we pop through the top, or 50% chance we pop through the bottom. So just watch and wait in here. If this gets going and pops out, that might be something to be paying attention to here as well. Take a look at some of the steel stocks out there. CLF, Cleveland Cliffs, looking really good in here in this little resting pullback back to trend and support. Watch for that next opportunity that could stretch on higher. Hanging in there, just looking pretty darn good. Take a look at Walmart. Walmart had a big popping day, broke through resistance in here, little pullback at the close, but still showing some bullishness there. I think there's every reason to believe that we could see Walmart stretch up here and break out of all-time highs. So watch that carefully on Wally World. Looking pretty good there at the moment. We did see a little bit of rotation yesterday as well. We saw things like Coke, some defensive sector stocks were picking up. They're not in bullish patterns in any way, shape, or form at the moment, but we might be starting to see some rotation out of some of the bigger tech stocks into other plays. And some of those happen to be kind of into those industrials and heavy equipment. Really strong move there on Caterpillar, breaking through this wedge to the upside, stretching up there, looking great. I think any little rest or pullback might set up an opportunity there for that upside move. Boeing's not one of those that's getting too much love here. As a matter of fact, I think Boeing could be setting up for a potential short in here. After breaking through support here, this resting consolidation may eventually end up into a short pattern. So watch that closely. If the market were to start to roll over at all, these are the kind of stocks that you want to start looking for, those that might be showing that failure pattern. Things out there like CMI, Cummins, really strong in that heavy equipment area, breaking through resistance, continuing to run. Any of this little rest in here, I think, sets up an opportunity for that upside. And keep a pretty close eye here on General Dynamics. General Dynamics looking good. Obviously, the geopolitical situation, a little bit concerning as Israel, Hamas, cranking things back up here again. Some threats going on there. Watch this closely, and we're certainly no closer right now in resolving the Ukraine-Russia war. So watch this carefully in here. A little bit of buying could come in there pretty easily and pop General Dynamics on higher, looking pretty good. I'd keep a pretty close eye here on United Health. Also a very bullish pattern after breaking through this major downtrend, holding in this upside trend. I would watch that for that potential pop out here and continued move up. We've got a gap up here that could be filled, and then maybe even stretching up toward that 200-day moving average here in the chart. So watch carefully on UNH. Really liking First Solar. You guys know I've been talking about that and talking about that. Watch that one for a potential breakout. Well, we got it yesterday. Nice push in here, trying to stretch on through. We got a little tiny bit of resistance in here to worry about, but then we may stretch on higher here in First Solar. Take a look at stocks like ENPH. ENPH making that move here as well, stretching on up. If we can break through this resistance, I think I would keep a close eye on that guy. Take a look at TJ Maxx. TJ Maxx continuing in this very bullish consolidation. watch for an opportunity there if that could push on higher. Keep a close eye on those. And I've got to keep mentioning the uranium plays in here. Uranium, URA, had a really good push up here, as you can see, breaking through resistance in the chart, little resting. I think there's every reason to believe that could continue to stretch on higher. UUUU also making that nice little stretch up. Now, the trade I'm holding, so I have a bias on this, is UEC. UEC trade, I've been holding this for a while and just continues to produce pretty well. The option position that we have in here finished the day yesterday almost up 23%, and I've already taken 50% of the profits on that at 37%. And I'm holding some stock on this as well, and that's up over 6.25%. Looking pretty good, and if we can hold in this pattern, I think there's every reason to believe that could stretch on higher here as well. So watch that carefully. So with that, everyone, there's I went past my time here quite a bit. There's quite a few stocks to look at. With the bullishness this morning, again, stay with the upside trend, but watch for that whipsaw. It is really concerning the way we see the weakness in that breadth. So something's going to pop or crack here eventually, and I just don't know which one. So make sure you're paying close attention. With that, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. And as always, I wish you all the very best. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.